The door groaned on rusted hinges, a mournful sound swallowed by the cavernous silence of the old Blackwood manor. Dust motes danced like frantic sprites in the slender beams of my flashlight, the only light piercing the oppressive gloom. Each step I took across the decaying floorboards was a gamble, the wood protesting with a low, splintering complaint. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of mildew and forgotten memories clinging to the back of my throat like a shroud. A grand staircase, its banister shrouded in cobwebs, loomed in the darkness, seeming to ascend into an abyss rather than a second floor. I swept the light across peeling wallpaper that depicted faded pastoral scenes, now warped into grotesque parodies by damp and decay. It felt as though the house itself was holding its breath, waiting. My own breath hitched in my chest, a small, tight knot of fear beginning to form in the pit of my stomach as I ventured deeper into the heart of the derelict home. The initial unease began to curdle into genuine dread. A faint, dry whisper seemed to slither from the walls, a sibilant sound that was almost indistinguishable from the wind sighing through a broken window pane, yet it felt deliberate, personal. My head snapped towards the source, but the flashlight beam revealed only a long, empty hallway, its darkness absolute. I took another tentative step, and a floorboard overhead creaked with the distinct weight of a footstep. I froze, straining my ears, but the sound was not repeated. From the corner of my eye, a shadow seemed to detach itself from the deeper darkness of a doorway, elongating and twisting for a split second before melting back into nothingness. When I turned to face it, my heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the suffocating quiet. The whispers grew more defined, almost forming words just beyond the edge of my comprehension, teasing my sanity. Every shadow seemed to harbor a watching presence, every draft a phantom touch against my skin. I stood paralyzed in the center of what must have been the main living room, the beam of my flashlight trembling in my hand. The silence stretched, becoming more terrifying than the noises had been. It was a loaded silence pregnant with anticipation. Then it happened. A sudden violent crack like a dry branch snapping echoed directly behind my right ear. It was so close, so sharp and clear that I felt the vibration of it in my bones. I instinctively flinched, spinning around with a choked gasp, swinging the flashlight in a wide, desperate arc. The beam sliced through the darkness, illuminating nothing but the grimy, stagnant air and a wall of peeling paint. There was no one there, nothing had fallen. The space behind me was utterly, impossibly empty. The profound wrongness of it sent a wave of icy terror washing over me, stealing the air from my lungs and leaving me dizzy with fright. My entire body was rigid, every muscle locked in a state of pure, primal fear. The flashlight beam quivered, casting frantic dancing patterns across the decay. The whispers had stopped, the creaks had ceased. There was only the sound of my own ragged, shallow breathing and the frantic pounding of my own blood in my ears. The silence was the answer. The house was toying with me, and the game had just reached its peak. Slowly, with an agonizing reluctance that made my neck muscles scream in protest, I began to turn my head back towards the camera. My movements were stiff, robotic, my body no longer feeling like my own. The camera pushed in, closing the distance until my face filled the frame. My lips were parted in a silent scream, and my eyes, wide and reflecting the stark, singular point of the flashlight's beam, held nothing but the reflection of absolute, unadulterated terror.